Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Mythbuster course. Today in this video we're going to cover the fifth pillar of recovery, and that is living a fulfilled sex life. So in this video we're going to cover a lot. We're going to talk about shame and sexual expression, the narrowing of sexual expression in pornography. We'll talk about a sex bucket list, your sexual creativity, the limits to what's permitted in sex in 2022, what's a sex positive attitude, and how to own our sexuality. And we'll finish with the most important question that you want to ask yourself in regards to your sexual expression. Okay, let's get into it. So we talked about in episode 2 about sexual repression and shame, okay? Shame arises when sexuality is repressed for any reason. You've learned that socially sex is bad, and so you engaging in sex and breaking that social code is creating shame. One of the reasons why you're turning to pornography, or why people turn to pornography, is that pornography is a realm of sexual expression with no boundaries. And within the confines of pornography, everything is possible, everything is permitted, and of course you will never be judged for the pornography you're consuming because you're behind your screen and no one else is watching you. And so while this may feel reassuring and safe in many ways to watch pornography, and we covered that in episode 3, that you're watching pornography because to your inner child this is the safest thing to do, you are actually disconnected from real sex life, and that is not good. That is not good because, well, you'd probably be happier if you were engaging in the full breadth of your sex life. And so why is this not happening? Well, there's a few reasons. So first of all, the shame and the guilt in the first place. You may have beliefs about sex. People have told you that sex is bad. You may have religious views about sex, and so it's not okay to have sex. You may be engaged in a monogamous relationship, and so it's not okay to consider sex outside of this monogamous relationship. So all these beliefs and these contracts and these commitments seem to be clashing with the sexual aspirations that you have within you, and so you are restrained, you are constrained within your sexual expression. You cannot express yourself. So the opposite of repression is expression. The sexual stuff that's in you wants to be out into the world, and that is called expression. So what's happening when you're watching pornography? There is something that can happen pretty often. If I ask you right now, what is your favorite keyword in pornography? Like when you get into that website, whatever it is, and you type in your keyword, what is your favorite keyword? And while some people don't have a keyword and just browse what's on the homepage, you probably have a favorite keyword. You probably have a go-to keyword that when it's time to climax, you know what to go to. And so what's happening, you would expect that as you watch more and more pornography, your sexual horizons broaden and you have more and more curiosity about all sorts of things. And it's certainly true at the beginning of when you're watching pornography, but after a while, there is this narrowing of sexual expression that happens when you're watching more and more of the same content. So there is this narrowing of sexual expression, or rather impression, should I say, from pornography onto your mind. And because of desensitization, because the high of dopamine you get from watching this content will fade away in time because you're watching so much of it, then you're going to need more and more of it. So you're going to need either more time in front of pornography, or typically as well more extreme or more intense pornography, and that leads to an escalation into extreme pornography, which is very, very damaging. So much so that once you've successfully finished, or once your recovery is complete with pornography, there's still what I call the imprint of pornography onto your mind that is going to take some time to wash off. Even though you're not consuming pornography anymore, it may take a few months, maybe a few years, so that the things that you've consumed in pornography that was potentially pretty extreme or pretty specific is going to disappear from your unconscious mind into you, stabilize into healthy, fulfilled expression of self. And when I'll say healthy, there's no judgment again on my end here. Everybody can be into whatever they want, and it's not an issue at all. It's just about are you feeling aligned with that sexual expression or are you not? And the issue with the escalation and the desensitization is that then this level of intensity into a real sex life is going to be hard to match. And so whenever you meet sexual partners, your sex life with sexual partners is going to be disconnected to the things you've been watching in pornography, when pornography will kind of feel like the real thing, and then real sex will feel like something a little bit tame, a little bit different, that's not as pleasurable, because there's other people to take into account in the equation, because there's no guarantee that everything's okay, because we don't feel as safe, because there's the need of the other person to take into account. All right, so if you are not engaged in a monogamous relationship, maybe you're single, maybe you're a young person, you're not committed, maybe you've just come out of a divorce and you're rebuilding yourself and your life, the question I want to ask you is, have you ticked off your sex bucket list? All right, and for one person, there will be typically a few things that they want to try. For men, it will be more specific sexual practices. I'm making a real broad generality here, but for men, it will be more specific things they want to tick off. For women, it'd be more some forms of situations they want to explore, or being invited into the world of a man who is adventurously going to show her something, or she's going to be initiating a practice, and the man will accompany her, something like that. That's just my own perception. You may disagree. And so I would strongly recommend to any young man out there, and whoever is watching this, to whom this applies, to tick your sex bucket list when you've got the opportunity, okay? So when you're young is typically when you'll feel the most sexually energized and the most sexually repressed. As you grow older and older, there's a bigger acceptance about sex, and people care less and less about revealing sexual fantasies or thoughts or desires, etc. But in teenagehood or when you're young, this is a big deal. So this is when you're in your prime to fulfill your sexual needs, is actually when you're the most repressed, and it's not very conducive to a healthy sexuality. So I would encourage any young man out there who's watching this to tick your sex bucket list off in the full power of your sexual expression and vitality, and we'll get into that in a second. And if you're not 20 years old and you're 50 years old and rebuilding your life, this also applies to you. What are the things that you can tick off and fulfill that are meaningful for you, that are fun, that are pleasurable, that make you feel like you've explored with curiosity and integrity sexuality, and that if you move on to a monogamous relationship later on, you will not find that you're feeling frustrated or confined within too small a sexual horizon. And the theme of sexual horizons brings us to the theme of sexual creativity, okay? As someone who's addicted to pornography, you're probably feeling inadequate. I was certainly feeling like that. You're probably feeling shameful. I certainly was feeling like that. You're probably feeling like you live a double life. I certainly used to feel like that. And this sexuality, or absence thereof, is weighing a lot on your shoulders. And it's a big burden. And we wish we didn't have that. And we wish we could let go of that. Now, the fact that you're consuming a lot of pornography and sex means that you are someone who values sex, okay? And whatever you're valuing is important in your life. And if you want to be fulfilled in your life, and we'll see that more in the last video, it is about creating a community of people who are like you, and people who have the same values and the same beliefs as you. So if you're someone who values sexuality, and again, there's nothing you can do about that. If I value money, then I value money. There's nothing I can do about that. If I value friendship, I value friendship. There's nothing I can do about that. So if you value sex, and there's nothing you can do about that, then it's important that you hang out with people who value sex as well. And it's important that you acknowledge this part of you as a part of your personality that is not to be rejected, that is not to be drowned, that is not to be shamed, but that is to be expressed, that is to be celebrated, that is to be seen and perceived and listened at. Because, like every part of you, it is important and it is you. And so that's the person with whom you live your whole life is yourself. And so we want you to be in harmony with yourself. So that part of you has to be seen. So what if instead of all the blaming and darkness and guilt and shame that there is with your sexuality, you brought in a sense that, hey, I value my sexuality, and this is a sense of sexual creativity. This is a sense of sexual giftedness. Some people don't value sexuality. Some people, you talk about sex, they say, well, yeah, it kind of feels nice. Sometimes I don't really know much about sex, don't really care about sex. Wow, from a point of recovered addiction, this always surprises me, but some people just don't care about sex, so they just do it as a routine thing. But hey, for you, it seems like this is a key thing in your life, or at least a very important thing in your life. You are addicted to pornography. You're not an alcoholic. You're not addicted to cigarettes. You're not addicted to gambling, or you may be in compulsion with those. But the main thing that you're addressing is pornography. So sexuality is important to you. And so let's celebrate that rather than shame that. Can we bring that, all the sexual content you're consuming, into an idea of healthy sexual expression and sexual creativity that doesn't stay confined in the realms of pornography because of all the issues we know about escalation and all these sorts of things, but things that want to be expressed. Again, this is all about sexual expression. How can you sexually express? So what are the rules for sexual expression? Sexual expression is kind of scary, right? You've got to go out there in the big world and maybe get rejected, and maybe people laugh, maybe you don't know how to express what you want, maybe you don't know where to find what you want. It's complicated. So what are the big rules and the big no-nos of sexual expression? In 2022, and I find it really healthy, I feel we made a lot of progress since the 50s or before that. The limits of sex is two things: the law and consent. The law means that you cannot engage in something that is illegal, or if you do, you're breaking the law and there's a risk. And the second thing is consent, which means that, and it's informed consent, which means that the person has to be affirmative in that they are willing to share this sexual experience with you. You either get a yes from them, or even better, you get like a collaboration where you're like, wow, this is amazing, let's do that. And it's informed consent. So it means that they know what they're getting into, you know what you're getting into, okay? And this consent applies to you as well, of course. When someone approaches you for a sexual encounter, you also have to get into the rules of informed consent, otherwise you could get into trouble. And so the reason why we've got these two frames and they're pretty healthy, the law and consent, is that it reduces the amount of people being hurt. Sex is very powerful. Sex ties to emotional attachments. There's also a lot of physical stuff going on, and also health risks and all these sorts of things. So these are very powerful mechanisms, and we need to be clear about what's going to happen so that everybody's on the same page. So if we minimize what's illegal, or if we don't do anything about what's illegal, and we don't do anything about what's non-consensual, then we're enjoying a good, healthy sex life for everybody, and nobody is getting hurt, and everybody's having fun with sex in a healthy way. Okay, so 2 questions there. I have these sorts of fantasies that are potentially illegal or non-consensual. What should I do? And if not, where do I go and explore these fantasies, my fantasies? So you do not choose your fantasies. Your fantasies choose you, okay? And it's not that your fantasies choose you as in there are spirits choosing you. Your fantasies choose you as in your development, your psychological development, your human development has led to certain beliefs, emotions, values, experiences that have crafted your personality and your sexual personality that will define your sexual fantasies. And so that's what it is. You can't really run away from that. It is what it is. So what if you're suffering from the fact that your fantasies are either non-consensual and illegal? First of all, I want to say to you, if you have these fantasies, I have a lot of compassion and empathy for you, okay? Because these fantasies are frowned upon, they are straight away rejected because there's a risk of hurting people. And so no one wants to talk about that, all right? It's super taboo. And so rest assured that there is no judgment on my end, that if these fantasies have chosen you, then you shall not be judged. And it is just the situation as it is. It does not make you a bad person. Okay, the only thing that's very important is that you do not act upon these fantasies and that you find a healthier container to express whatever it is, pent up emotion or whatever it is that's in those fantasies, so that nobody gets hurt. So again, no judgment on my end. Just please do not enact these fantasies in any way. Otherwise, you're going to hurt people, you're going to hurt yourself, and you're going to make everybody miserable around you. And you're breaking the law possibly, so don't do that. So if you have these fantasies, what can you do? Well, it's possible to let go of certain fantasies by engaging in enough trauma reprocessing that your attachment to these fantasies will disappear. If there's a lot of non-consensual fantasies that you're having, probably in your past, you have yourself been the victim of non-consensual something. And so we want to see also the victim in you, if there is a victim in you, for these things that have happened. And again, it's not so much that you're being a victim, but that is that these things have happened and you were part of that, and we want to see you in that. And that hurt part of you, we want to see it and acknowledge it and respect it and heal it and address it in the best possible way. So one way is to do enough trauma reprocessing that, hey, these fantasies will give you a little bit of a break. Another way is to engage in role play, okay? And in role play with a consensual person, then they can play anything that's illegal. They can play anything that, it doesn't matter, provided it's consensual role play, then it is legal. So it's totally fine. So here is a way of sexual expression, even though you're the things you're into are illegal or non-consensual. There is an avenue of expression for you. And like everything, if these things happen to you, we want to see the victim in you. We want to see all the bad things that have happened. There's no judgment. But also, please do not dismiss that. Please do not dismiss that there's a risk of you hurting other people, that there's a risk of you hurting yourself. Please take responsibility on these and seek the right treatment with us at Unhooked or anywhere else that you see fit, so that you can become more aligned and you're not suffering from these anymore. And then the risk of harming other people is low as well. Now, let's say you have just fantasies that are not illegal, they are not about non-consent, and you just want to go out and express these sexual fantasies. How do you do? Well, you can get into finding partners into the regular way that we approach people. It can be, at a party, or with friends of friends, or whatever new way you have to bring new people into your life. It's fine. But it's about owning it. It's about being in a mindset of sex positivity. It's about owning our desires, and it's about coming from a place of integrity, maybe pride and not shame. If you're approaching someone and you're feeling ashamed of who you are, you're not going to create a good connection, and they will not want to explore sexuality with you, just because this person doesn't feel like they're aligned with their own sexuality. So why am I going to put my own sexuality into their hands when they don't seem like they're very aligned themselves? All right, so there are communities that exist, sex positive communities, where there's discussions around sexuality. I'm thinking about FetLife, for example, in particular, which is the BDSM, the Facebook of BDSM, if you like. There's many more sex positive communities in every city. There's local groups that exchange for this purpose. Your thing can be into people who are very open and sex positive up front, or it can be about exploring people's sexuality with them, whatever it is, provided you're honest and open about sex, and that you value sex and you're open to share that with people in a way that's integrated and aligned, then people will be happy to explore sexuality with you. Maybe it'll be a good outcome, maybe it'll be an average outcome, maybe it'll be a bad outcome, but at least they'll be happy to give it a go, and you will have learned something from that experience, and most importantly, you will have expressed yourself sexually, which is the biggest thing. And I'll tell you a story to wrap this up about owning our sexual expression and sexual integrity. I joined Sydney's BDSM scene. That was a while ago, probably 6 years, 7 years ago. Oh no, that was way before that. 2013. Anyway, doesn't matter. 10 years ago or so. And I was going to my first sex party, and I was excited. I was horribly nervous, and I didn't know what to expect. And it wasn't so much a sex party than a socializing in the BDSM community. But anyway, and I bought my $400 suit, which at the time for me was an incredible investment. And well done, Dimitri, at that time, because you invested in your sexual expression. That's a really good thing to do. And anyway, I had very mixed feelings, and I went on my own, pressed the elevator button, went to that place, and the gates of hell opened in front of me. And so what I saw there, well, I don't want to get into too much of the triggering stuff, but there was some bondage happening in one area. There was people, I won't get into the details. There was a man with his back on fire, and there was a woman lighting his back on fire. That was incredible. It was like a circus of sexual expression. It was incredible. And I realized on that day, like, there was the most incredible things happening, but I realized on that day that there was one thing that was not okay. And the one thing that was not okay was to come to this party with your shame. And I had done that. I had come to this party with my shame. So as time went by, I let go, and I let go of the shame. And a lot of incredible negative things happened after that, which made me leave the BDSM community, which was entirely my mistake, and it's another story that I'll tell you for another time. So the point is, if you let go of shame, and if you walk into sexuality with sunshine in your heart and all good intentions to have an awesome time, whatever that means, and the people in front of you are also okay with that, and somehow you know that information in one way or another, then you can own your sexuality. Then you're not restricted to the confines of pornography, and then you can really live your sexual expression to the fullest and find peace with yourself, and hopefully find peace with this addiction as well. And so to wrap up with this pillar, the question I want to ask you is this: what is the biggest obstacle to you fulfilling your sex life currently? What is your biggest obstacle to you fulfilling your sex life currently? Take a few minutes to think about that, and then you're going to smash that obstacle. Alright, this was our 5th video about a pillar living a fulfilled sex life. Next video is going to be the last video for our Mythbuster course, and is going to be how to live on purpose. I'll see you there.